good evening, good afternoon. By the title of this video, you can already tell that I'm going to be giving you guys 5 mistakes that truck drivers make while over the road or just driving in general. I'm also doing my little self-care thing. I was gonna do this and not record it, but then I knew that I had to do a video relatively soon, so I figured why not kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So I am going to choose from either of these nails to put on my nails today. You guys have already seen me do my nails. I'm not about to bore you with that. And then also I'm just soaking my feet, and I'm gonna use this scrub that I got from Dollar Tree. Honestly, I don't put too much thought into my feet products. I probably will later, but these work just fine. So, but anyways, enough about that. So when I decided to make this video, it was really because I'd either been told about a situation that I had never been notified about before driving trucks, or I was in a situation that nobody really spoke about while I was in training or before. So one thing I want to say before I start this video is, whether you have started driving or you're in training to drive or you have never driven before, whatever the case may be, do not feel like these mistakes are inevitable, but also don't feel like you are incapable of making these mistakes. Everyone is capable of making these mistakes, and I will never sit up there and make you feel like, or make anyone feel like, these mistakes are for dummies. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's a lot of negativity when it comes to people who make mistakes, whether in trucking or just period. But mistakes are a part of growth. Mistakes are the reasons why you become an expert in certain areas. Of course, you learn from others' mistakes, but someone has to make a mistake in order for you to learn. Really, where I'm trying to get at is, I don't feel like it is ethical to just make fun of people for making these types of mistakes. Truck drivers are held to a certain esteem because this is a dangerous job. This is not something you take lightly. Being in a truck means that you are capable of killing a lot of people. You're capable of doing a lot of damage over the road. So I do say take it seriously, but I will say at the same time, minor mistakes that happen to just anybody, I wouldn't down yourself for doing that, because someone's done it before you and someone will do it after you. The most that I will say is, try to teach those that don't know so that they won't make the same mistake. With that being said, let's get into the first mistake. I said mistake like 25 times. The first mistake is backing into a trailer that is too high. The issue is not that the trailer is too high, right? The issue is when you back into a trailer that's too high, your kingpin can get caught behind the 5th wheel, and that is a problem. The issue is when a trailer is too high, the kingpin of the trailer sits higher than your 5th wheel that is attached to your tractor. The moment you back into the trailer and it is not low enough to be secured within the 5th wheel, the kingpin will sit right in front of the lip of the 5th wheel, which will cause you to get stuck. I have run into this situation before. I've actually run into it twice. If you run into a situation like this, I will tell you right now, you can get out of it. 9 times out of 10, you're able to get out of it on your own or with help from someone nearby. Me, when I got into this situation myself for the first time, I had never been told on how to get out of it, and I was prepared to look it up, but I wanted to see for myself what I could do. I looked underneath my trailer and I recognized the issue, and I thought to myself, well, if I leveled out my 5th wheel, maybe I'll be able to pull out. And so what I did was I grabbed 2 cereal boxes, put them underneath my 5th wheel, and I pulled straight out. The second time that I encountered this situation, I had a guard dog that instructed me to walk my way out. And I'm really unsure of how to explain this, but for the most part, I continuously pulled and backed up trying to turn my wheel until I jackknifed, and with that I was able to pull from the side. Now that one was a lot more tricky, and had he not been there, I would have not tried to attempt to do that, because there was just a lot of things to focus on, but having an extra set of eyes definitely helped me. What I will say is this is 100% avoidable. Doing the extra step of getting out and making sure that the trailer is not too high or too low can definitely save you time and issues, and you definitely don't want to be out there trying to unhook from the trailer, getting dirty, getting fistful of grease on you. You definitely don't want to have to deal with that. You want to be able to go and finish your trip. Hold on one second, I actually have to go and get my nail clippers. You can also hear and feel if the trailer is too high, or in other words, you can hear and feel when the trailer is flush to your fifth wheel. In the event that you don't hear or feel the metal up against your fifth wheel, 9 times out of 10 the trailer is too high. So that's one way that I make sure. If I don't hear anything and I feel like I'm at a point where I should be able to hear metal, I will get out, look, and I will crank my landing gear so that I'm able to back into the trailer. So that one, 100% avoidable as long as you're willing to make the necessary steps and precautions. The next mistake that truckers make that not many people speak about is putting DEF fluid or DEF fluid into the diesel tank. Now, if you are not familiar with DEF fluid, it stands for diesel exhaust fluid, I believe, and it is pretty much a eco-friendly way to keep the trucks from making a lot more exhaust, and you know how trucks can be really bad for the planet and things like that. I believe DEF was put into play that we can minimize that. Not only do most trucks have 2 tanks on each side of the tractor, but they also have a DEF tank, which would generally be on the driver's side towards the front. The issue with putting DEF fluid in the diesel tank is DEF fluid is corrosive, and it is very dangerous when it comes down to putting it inside of the actual fuel system. It can damage the metals, it can just ruin the whole system and cause a lot of major damage. I myself have never encountered this situation, and I've never heard of anyone I know running into this situation, but I have heard of people making this mistake. I've heard of a lot of gossip about this, and one thing I've learned is 100%, if you ever put DEF fluid inside of the fuel tank, do not turn the truck on. The object is that you aren't supposed to have the truck on when you are fueling anyway, and so if you happen to put DEF fluid inside of the fuel tank, don't turn the truck on at all. Don't do that, because once you turn the truck on, the fuel siphons, I think that's the right word, siphons through the actual system, and that DEF fluid will go straight in through with it. Another thing that you need to do is call for service, roadside service, or just get that truck serviced, because you're not going to be able to do anything about it. You're not going to be able to move that truck once you've made that mistake. Putting DEF fluid inside of the tank alone is going to cause a lot of money being lost, because they're going to have to completely clean out the fuel tanks, and from my knowledge, I believe even that sometimes doesn't work, because it's such a tricky liquid that it sometimes still leaves residue, so they might have to replace a lot of other things too along the way. Outside of almost every single truck, it says do not put this fluid in this tank. It's pretty obvious. Unless you're not paying attention, that sign is there every time just to remind you, like, hey, I cannot put this fluid in here. But in the event that you are not focusing on those signs, you just better remind yourself, okay, that is not something you play with, because your company's going to come out of a lot of money. So just pay attention. Don't allow yourself to lollygag and make that mistake, because that mistake is definitely not worth it. Mistake number 3 that I haven't heard too many people speaking about is bending your fairings. I spoke about this in another video, probably like 2-3 videos ago, maybe last video, I can't remember. No, it was probably like 2-3 videos ago. But bending your fairings, while this one may not be as detrimental as the mistake beforehand about the DEF fluid, this is still something you want to avoid at all costs. Bending the fairings, first of all, the fairings are pretty much the side of the back side of your tractor, the metal and the rubber part in the back. Now, I don't know which one is the fairings. I'm not an expert here. I tried Googling it. Nobody's really giving me answers here. But from my knowledge, it looks like the fairings is pretty much the side of the truck. But knowing which one is the fairings is not as important as knowing not to bend them. Is really where I'm getting at. Bending them occurs when you jackknife too hard. Now, this depends on your truck. This can depend on if you're driving a day cab or a sleeper. This can depend on how far forward or backward your fifth wheel is placed, because you can move the fifth wheel, and it just depends on the make and model of the vehicle. But for the most part, bending your fairings occurs when you jackknife too hard and you then have the metal of the trailer pushing up against the metal of the back of your tractor, which then scrunches up the metal. This can cause rips in your hoses. This can cause tears in the metal. This can cause bulges, holes, and things like that, which is damage that your company has to pay for, or if you are owner operator, you have to pay for it, because it's definitely not something you want a DOT officer to look at. Bending your fairings is very easy to avoid. The one thing that I will say 100% is make sure you are looking in both of your mirrors, but primarily the mirror in which you are turning towards. You know what I'm saying? So if you're turning right, definitely when it comes down to bending your fairings, because you're supposed to look at both mirrors, but when it comes down to bending your fairings, make sure you're paying attention to the fairings when you are turning towards either one of them, because you will be able to tell. You also can hear the metal when it's getting too close to the trailer. My truck is about to start. But you definitely just want to make sure that you're paying attention to your fairings. Also, you can avoid this by pushing your fifth wheel back, because the further back your fifth wheel is, the more jackknife you can be. So sometimes certain turns, certain backups, certain maneuvers call for you to have to turn at more than a 90-degree angle, and it would be easier if you had your fifth wheel to the back. The fourth mistake is parking on soft ground. Now, not too many people speak on this. Hold on, I gotta drink some. Now, not too many people speak on this because a lot of people feel like it's self-explanatory, but I will again say parking on soft ground is something that you should keep in mind. I think a lot of times truckers are so used to going to dirt lots and gravel sites and things like that, driving on dirt roads, that sometimes when there is a dirt lot, though it isn't supposed to be for trucks, they don't think twice about it, and then they end up getting stuck. The thing about soft ground is sometimes it won't be soft until it gets moist out, until it rains outside, until something changes in the air. Maybe it can go from being cold outside to really hot and humid outside. And next thing you know, if you've parked on a soft ground for 34 hours and then you come back and it rained, you're probably gonna be stuck. Now, if you end up stuck at any point in time, there are things that I've seen people do. Some people put sand underneath their drive tires, which are the back tires of your tractor. Some people use cat litter. Some people use rock salt. Some people use cardboard pieces. They'll like stick it underneath their drive tires, and I've seen it work. But the best thing is just to avoid it at all costs. Don't park on grass. But again, this is something that's self-explanatory. I just feel like some people don't really think about it. I just know that it's something that's easily forgotten. So just don't do that. Okay. Last but not least, which is so sad because I'm nowhere near done with my nails or my feet, but I'm going to show you guys the aftermath when I'm finished. But last but not least is not setting your tandems. Now, setting your tandems is something that not many people, unless they started driving trucks, have heard about. I know when I was going into truck driving, I hadn't heard about tandems. I didn't even know what tandems are. To be honest, my knowledge is that tandems are the back wheels of your trailer. I believe the axle is considered the tandem, but when people are saying slide your tandems, they're generally saying move those back tires either forward or backward. The purpose of tandems is to change the weight on the axles of your truck. So general rule of thumb, if you are unaware, is when you are hauling a load, the maximum weight for the front two tires, so your steer tires, is 12,000 pounds, and then the back set of axles are 34,000 and 34,000, which equals up to 80,000 pounds. In the event that you are over at least by 1 pound on either of those axles, you can get fined, you can get in trouble. You just don't want to do that. So that's why when you see trucks at weigh stations and things like that, they are inspecting whether or not the truck is overweight in either of those axle points. So when you go and get loaded and you find out the weight of your trailer, oftentimes truck drivers will go to a scale, which is at a lot of truck stops. When you go and get scaled, if everything lines up between 12,000, 34 and 34,000, then you're fine. But if one of them are overweight, you have to move your tandems. Now the process is you pull the pin out, you leave the trailer brakes on, and then you drive forward or drive backward. When you put the tandems to the back, you are lowering your tandem axle weight. If you are pushing your tandems forward, you are putting more weight on those back tires. Me explaining that is me just trying to help you out, but the issue is there's been situations where a truck driver has tried to slide their tandems and they forget to actually set it. So the problem is when you pull the pin, you are allowing yourself to slide the tandems, but the object is you have to push the pin back in and you have to make sure that it is secure within the hole. If you don't, then the tandems are still able to slide. So the issue is if you start driving and your tandems are not locked, you can cause serious damage. Now, I couldn't find any pictures, which is super surprising because I've seen pictures before. But for those of you who don't understand, just picture it this way. Picture the tires on the vehicle being able to slide at least 4 or 5 feet forward and backward, right? Now picture someone needing to slam on their brakes and the tires were already 100% forward. Picture them slamming on their brakes and those tires stopping at a halt. That will cause the tires to spring backwards with as much force as that person slammed on their brakes, which can cause the tires to completely destroy the back of the trailer. It can cause the axles to bend, break, all of that. And it's a loud boom. I myself have mistakenly not locked the tandems because the thing is, even if you push the tandem release arm back in, you still have to pull forward a little bit in order to secure it. And there was a time where I didn't secure it, and next thing I know, I went and stopped. I didn't slam on my brakes, and I wasn't going more than like 5 miles per hour. I was still on the site, by the way. I hadn't pulled off and started driving somewhere else, but I had stopped at the railroad tracks at like 5 miles an hour, and by me stopping, my wheels hit the back, and it had scared me. I'm like, what the heck was that? It felt like somebody had hit my truck. So just think if someone was going 45 miles an hour and a car zipped in front of them and they had to slam on their brakes, they are tearing the back of that trailer up. So the way to avoid that is to make sure that you have secured the pin of your tandem. It is very easy to do, but sometimes we skip steps, sometimes we make mistakes, but that mistake is detrimental, and I definitely wouldn't want anybody to make that mistake. And sometimes people forget, or sometimes people don't know the extensive damage that it can cause. So if you are a new driver, definitely make sure that you are locking your tandems. Do not leave any property without making sure that your tandems are locked and secured. Obviously, there are many more mistakes that truck drivers can make. There are a lot more super popular mistakes that truck drivers can make, but these are some that I wanted to shed light on that I feel like not many people speak on. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about it with hopes that by shedding light on these topics, people will probably make these mistakes a lot less. I just want to say thank you guys so much for the support. It means the world to me, and I definitely appreciate you guys giving advice in the comments. If I have neglected to give other advice, leave them down in the comments. Definitely give all your spiel about what could or could not happen with these mistakes that I've mentioned in this video. If you have any other advice for newbies or people who are looking into truck driving, definitely leave those in the comments below as well. But I love you all so much, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next video. Bye. I still gotta do my nails, so y'all gonna see it after. Okay, bye.